Good morning, folks. So today, as you can tell by the thumbnail, I'm doing a story on the Newfoundland wolf. And it's got a personal connection for me because I've actually made the journey to the rooms in St. John's to have a look at the only, as far as I know, mounted specimen of the creature. So I'll just throw my beautiful mug back up here. Hi, freshly shaved. I do apologize if I'm blinding you with the glare. But I did want to show you some of the images from the rooms. This one in particular is actually the wolf itself that's under glass in the rooms, the museum in St. John's. And there's lots of different discussion about whether or not, as you can see, this is a larger picture. I'm not sure if, no, that's different parts of the rooms. The rooms is a very nice museum as well, but in this case we're actually focusing simply on the wolf. So I'll just have a quick flick through here. It doesn't look like there's any. Actually, I do believe that might be the best picture I've seen of one, or rather of the wolf in... yeah, this isn't a great image either. It actually looks slightly less quality than the images I took myself years ago. But this is the under glass mounted specimen, as I said, the only specimen I know of that's mounted. And the only surviving specimen, certainly, of the Newfoundland wolf. The Newfoundland wolf, which I will bring up the Wikipedia article now, was known as Canis lupus beathicus. Personally, I think it should have been Canis lupus terra novus, but hey, what are you going to do? But it was a subspecies of gray wolf that was native to Newfoundland. As a food source, the species preyed and relied on the Newfoundland caribou. Now, here's something I didn't know. During the autumn and early winter, some of the wolves would turn white, while others remained dark enough to look black. I suspect that's a species-specific thing, because I've never personally heard of wolves doing that. And actually, while I'm here, I will do a quick search and find out if wolves change colors with the seasons. This one, yes. Do wolves change color? Wolves can change color as they age, which is apparent as they take on whiter color palettes later in their life. Well, anyone who knows canines in general will know that an older canine has gray around its muzzle, etc. But apparently it's very rare to see a wolf change color of its fur because of the seasons. Interesting. Gray is the predominant color for wolves, while black and white are less common. It's typical to see white wolves predominantly in colder parts of the world where snow is almost constant. Alaska, Northern Europe, Asia. White wolves almost never or rarely change their color. Color changes are far more typical for gray and black wolves. When wolves change color of their fur, there are typically three main reasons for it: stress, old age, genetics. So, this fact alone, that the Newfoundland wolf would occasionally change color, some, at least, while this may be, and it does say citation needed, so this may simply be a case of legend or folklore, which is something you run into quite a lot if you're doing Newfoundland studies, is that sometimes things are said that are not necessarily true, based on anecdotal or witness accounts, which don't always jibe with reality. However, it was mentioned in the other article that I checked, so we'll take it with a grain of maybe, that the Newfoundland wolf was actually a little different. Let me just put that screen back. There we go. Described as medium-sized and slender-skulled. Melanists? What is a melanist? Okay, so it would have been over dark, basically darker than expected. The last specimen was reportedly killed in 1911. Fun fact, Newfoundland didn't have any moose until 1904, when they shipped in 4, and now we've got over 150,000. Yeah. once the natural predator had been kind of removed, yeah. And there is some good news on that front, and I will come to it a little later. And you'll have to excuse me. Sorry, and I had to sniffle as well. Matter of fact, oh, I don't think I have them on me. No. Oh, there they are. Okay, well, I'm not pausing to go and hunt down my lozenges. I'll simply cough through it. But a fun fact is that there is sort of a new Newfoundland wolf, and I'll come to that later. In any case, back to this screen. There we are. So, this is recognized as a subspecies. In 1912, Garrett S. Miller Jr. concluded that in North America, specifically west of the Mississippi, north of the Platte, there are 3 types of wolves: timber wolf, plains wolf, and tundra wolf. My thinking would be that the Newfoundland wolf would have been potentially different as a subspecies, but I think it would be fair to say that it was probably a tundra wolf. Let's have a look at this image here and see what this says. So we've got the brown there. Oh, no, that's more of a red. So this darkish red would be here. So that would be Canis lupus beathicus, represented as a white wolf in this case, which is interesting. But, as you can see, there are some different sizes. As I understood it, as it was explained to me, rather, these animals were considered to have been the largest. Let me just kill that. They were, now, again, this may be anecdotal / legend, but as I understood it, these wolves were larger than other wolves. I don't know if that's necessarily true. Looking at the specimen here under glass, it doesn't look particularly large. In fact, in person, it looks roughly the same size as the average coyote that I encountered in Alberta. Fun little story for you. I actually attempted to pet 2 coyotes in Alberta once because I'd never encountered coyotes. I was under the impression they were some sort of slightly malnourished, potentially mistreated coyote, German Shepherd cross. I encountered them in the street, basically. They had just come out of a field, which basically led to the wide open prairie, and had entered town on the very edge, which is where I was living. And I approached them as I would any other dog, basically bent down, made myself smaller, patted my leg and said, "Come here, come here." One of them, the moment that they realized I was there, bolted. I assumed, okay, this is a mistreated animal, and I'll have to be a little gentler with the other one, which had been a little less skittish. So, of course, reached out my hand, come here, pup, kind of thing, trying to be as gentle as possible. And this coyote got within, I would say, definitely within 3 feet of my hand. And I guess got my scent or got spooked for some other reason. Gone. I was immediately castigated by a neighbor who yelled, "What are you doing, you damn fool?" And, of course, being under the impression that it made it look like I had somehow harmed the dog, I turned around and I had said, "Ma'am, I didn't hurt that dog." And her response was, "You damn fool," yet again. Those were coyotes, not dogs. They were certainly much more afraid of me than I was of them. That said, if I were to go hiking in the woods somewhere where I was aware there were coyotes, I'd have a big stick. In fact, one of my walking sticks, which is not currently here. Yes, it is. Yes, it is. One of the first walking sticks that I made. I actually dubbed it Coyote Repellent. And, of course, everything over there is going to fall apart and my chair is going to creak like mad. Because I am, in fact, a heavy bugger. Let me see. So, we'll bring back that wolf image. Just long enough to throw it away. I believe this is a Yes. In the Newfoundland wolf, the nasal bones of the skull are 2.5 times longer than the ascending arms of the premaxilla, rather than twice as long. So, in other words, they had some structures that were significantly different from some physical structures that were significantly different. Now, I am aware that this one, which is the same wolf as far as I know, does look significantly different than this one. So I don't know if lighting may be playing a factor there, or possibly this may be one of the older images. That's interesting. Let me just have a quick look through this. Okay, I'm not even going to bother. So we'll come back to the Wikipedia, and as I said, actually I'll put my face back. As I said, this is a creature that I've been fascinated with for a long time. I've grown up with canines, dogs. Dogs are a massive, very important part of the culture of Outport, Newfoundland. Hunting, companionship, guard dogs. The few farmers, ranchers, herdsmen, I don't know exactly what the proper term would be, that we have, people who raise goats, sheep, cows. Obviously, dogs are very important to them as guard animals. I've always considered myself a dog person. And it's very true. If you've seen some of my recent stuff, you know that my girlfriend's dogs have taken a very big liking to me, which is only fair because I've taken a very big liking to them. I've always loved dogs. But just to continue, let me see here. Yes. Okay. So there's also a Labrador wolf. Let's see what this says. Subspecies of gray wolf native to Labrador and northern Quebec has been described as ranging in color and of being closely related to the Newfoundland wolf. This wolf is recognized as subspecies of Canis lupus. Let's just have a quick click of that then and see what it's actually called. Canis lupus labradorius. Fair. But as I was saying, there have been some good news articles, and it mentions it here in the Wikipedia. Sorry, forgot to keep myself off screen, but it does mention here in the Wikipedia article that in 2019 a wolf was shot in Newfoundland after being confused for a coyote. DNA evidence found it and a second wolf found on Newfoundland to be a Labrador wolf, which are often seen in neighboring Labrador but rare on Newfoundland. The other side of that, this one here, which is from the same, it's a discussion from 2012. The article is from 2019, but the incident discussed is from 2012. In May 2012, Joe Fleming from Bonavista shocked the world when he posed in a photo with an 82-pound animal he killed with his rifle on the Bonavista Peninsula. Joe thought the animal was a coyote, but at closer inspection he believed it was actually a wolf. Later, the animal's DNA was analyzed. Sure enough, it was a wolf. Newfoundland Department of Environment and Conservation weighed in on the subject in a news release, saying they're unsure how the wolf ended up on the island of Newfoundland, but suspected it may have crossed the frozen Labrador Strait ice, which is a common way other mammals, like polar bears, make their way to the island each spring. The ministry considered it to be a rare event and brushed the sighting off to a single incident, but that was not the end of the wolf sightings. On January 20th, 2019, there was a total lunar eclipse which was referred to as the Super Wolf Blood Moon. On that day, from North America, the moon was high in the sky and the totality of the eclipse lasted just over an hour. We're not saying these events are related. This is cute. I do like this. But a few days later, Kurt Payne and his wife, Andrea, from Sandy Point, stated they saw several wolves, I would guess on or near their doorstep, or from their doorstep possibly, in the early morning. While they were not able to get clear images of the animals on their cameras, they are both sure that what they saw were wolves. What's even more interesting is that if anyone should be able to tell the difference between wolves and coyotes, it's Kurt and Andrea Payne. They both spend time researching wolves and had even spent time at a wolf sanctuary. Yeah. Now, here's the question. And there is another possibility here, which I will put myself back on camera while I type in this search. And that possibility is that there's actually been a hybridization between wolves and coyotes in the northeastern part of North America. And the theory is they're known as... Now, David Suzuki mispronounces it as coy wolf. No. If you're going to say coyote, you say Kai-Wolf. And I do my damnedest not to slip into the German and say Kai-Wolf. Because I just think that sounds cool. But what we're seeing is that we're getting a lot of coyote-wolf hybrids. And, sorry, I said it wrong myself. Coyote-wolf hybrids. And it does look like they bred around the Great Lakes, moved south. However, oh, bugger off, National Geographic. Okay. While that's doing that, I'll put myself back. But one of the things that seems to be happening, and there's two possible theories. Obviously, the Labrador wolf is the most likely that it may have come across the strait. But it's just as possible that the eastern coyote wolf hybrid has spread into Newfoundland as well. And it may be both. In any case, I'm quite happy, personally, to see that these creatures are returning to Newfoundland. It's going to be very interesting to see if they continue to predate only on caribou, or if they actually do go after the wolf, which places them in direct competition with hunters. Well, even going after caribou will place them in direct competition with hunters. Especially when we have a growing homesteader chicken raising population, I suppose. There's a growing segment of the population that are raising chickens, raising livestock of their own. And part of that being the issue of supply here on the island. I think it's been a very bad choice for a lot of us to depend on the shipments from elsewhere. Now, granted, you're not going to grow a banana on Newfoundland's islands. But you can grow cranberries. You can grow apples. I know for a fact you can grow apples. I know several people who have apple trees in their yards. But when it comes to fresh food, it's occasionally very difficult to get that across the... oh my, is that the Gulf of St. Lawrence? No, might be. But from Nova Scotia to Newfoundland is our ferry link for food. And it's the only link. So if there was some sort of problem, and it does happen very, I wouldn't say infrequently, that the ferry is not capable of running because of weather, then we end up with an issue of food that is not moving and essentially sitting on a truck and spoiling. Now, granted, it's not necessarily bad by the time we get it, but it's not at the highest quality it could be. Now, we'll go back and check that archived article now that I've circumvented National Geographic's paywall. Coyote wolf hybrids have spread across the U.S. East. And yes, I do realize I have said it again. I do try to say coyote as opposed to coyote. Mostly because coyote is the way that it's, as I understand it, properly pronounced. And we'll have a look at that as well in just a second. There we go. I have a search running for the coyote pronunciation guide. So scientists already knew that some coyotes, which have been gradually expanding their range eastward, mated with wolves in the Great Lakes region. The pairings created viable hybrid offspring, identified by DNA and skulls, that have been found in mid-Atlantic states such as New York and Pennsylvania. Now, for those of you who don't know, New York and Pennsylvania, as far as it comes for a walking creature, is not really that far from Newfoundland. Now, the issue being, of course, or rather Nova Scotia, the issue being, of course, that there is a significant gulf of water to cross. So more like than not, we're looking at Labrador wolves in the Bonavista area, Bonavista being the northern part of the island, and Labrador, of course, being to the west and north. But again, ice. They could have been chasing creatures across the ice. There's any number of possibilities. They may, in fact, have extended their range into Newfoundland and be breeding on the island. It's difficult to tell. So DNA analysis of coyote poop, interesting, shows for the first time that some coyotes in the state of Virginia are also part wolf. So essentially what we're seeing is evolution in action, where two species, and this is theorized to have happened with the ancestors of modern humans, two species intermingle and essentially breed each other out of existence. Personally, I don't really have an issue with that. The more creatures that kind of combine, then the fewer species we end up with, and the fewer we have to put on an endangered list. Okay, so this one doesn't mention Newfoundland at all. Let me bring this back again. Eastern U.S. Okay, let's see. Since we're talking about Newfoundland specifically. And yeah, it's, I do apologize for the obvious typo. Big fingers. So, this is interesting. We have confirmed wolf-coyote hybrids on the island since 2013. Wolves and coyotes have been mating on the island of Newfoundland. DNA testing keeps showing, and the province's director of wildlife is monitoring the situation with great interest. Recently, actually not that recently, a couple of years ago, I was living in Eastport working. Eastport is in Trinity Bay, I believe. I don't know if it's on the Bonavista Peninsula. I don't know that area particularly clearly. But living there, I was on the outskirts of town where I was renting, and it was not unusual for me to walk outside to have a cigarette at night and hear coyotes, well, I won't say howling. They more wail than howl. When I lived in Alberta, it was a common sound, and to be honest, I find it a very soothing sound to hear. I think it's probably because, as one of my native friends pointed out to me, if you hear coyotes, that means there aren't any bears around. And I kind of understand that. Let's see here. Let's have a look here. A hybrid trapped in the fall. Okay, so this is dated when? Doesn't help. Okay. So we've got traps in 13, in 2016. So these are 11. And they're certainly pointing to hybridization with gray wolves, according to Blake. Now, Mr. Blake is... Who is Mr. Blake? John Blake. Doesn't really say who John Blake is. And we're having another subspecies mentioned, Algonquin wolf, which is the coyote, the eastern coyote, which itself is a hybrid. Okay, what these 11 are showing us is that, yes, there has been introgression of the more pure gray wolf, the Labrador wolf, into our eastern coyote genetic mix here on the island. Interesting. So, in other words, the coyotes and wolves are interbreeding, and I would assume competing probably with lynx. Lynx generally tend to go for hare, rabbit. Arctic hare, which here in Newfoundland we tend to call rabbit. What I figure is probably going on is that dogs are showing their superiority to cats. In any case, folks, I'm coming up on about 25 minutes here. There's not a real hell of a lot left for me to say other than to point out that I am really pleased to see that a population, a species that was essentially wiped from existence, is returning. Now, granted, it's returning in something of a different form, but the terrain of Newfoundland has not changed that much in the last 109 years since the last one was killed. Sorry, 119. No, that's wrong. The last one was The last Newfoundland wolf was killed in 1911, so that's 112 years. Hey, it's a quintal's worth of years. If you don't know what a quintal is, I'll tell you one of these days. But in the last 112 years, the terrain of Newfoundland has not changed that much, other than the development by humans. One of the issues that wolves potentially face is getting into the interior, because the Trans-Canada Highway essentially forms a border around, or a barrier, I guess, to creatures, migratory wolves especially, around the interior of the island, in terms of where these animals would be entering the island. That said, population's fairly sparse. It's not going to be hard for them to cross a road and get into the interior. So who knows, in 15, 20 years, we may see a lot more wolves in Newfoundland. I'm all for it. We also have some people, in my area especially, are breeding wolf-dog hybrids. Now, this is not connected, as far as I know, to these newcomer wolves. This is a mainland wolf that's been bred with usually a husky, I believe. And this is an intentional breeding as opposed to an accidental or unexpected breeding. They're beautiful dogs. As I understand it, they're not quite dogs. So they're beautiful animals, but not exactly the same as a dog. Not quite the same companionship level, which is understandable, especially if one parent is a wild creature. But again, as I say, I'm very happy to see this sort of thing happening. Excuse me. I really do look forward to the day when I can walk outside here in Newfoundland and potentially see wolves chasing, well, it won't be deer. Deer can't survive on the island. Yeah, that's another thing we'll talk about later. But, yeah, the potential to be able to look outside and watch wolves chasing a moose or a caribou is very interesting. It's, one of those things I'm very optimistic about. Gives me a little hope for the future, as it were. In any case, folks, as always, I hope you're having a good day. I hope you continue to have good days. And rise again until lambs become lions. Bye-bye. Oh, actually, before I forget, if you would be so kind, please like, share, subscribe, comment. Follow me on Rumble. In fact, this video will be uploaded to Rumble not long after it's uploaded to YouTube. Syncing is a beautiful thing. I'm currently at 38 followers on Rumble. The live streaming stricture has been removed, so I no longer need to reach 100 to be able to live stream there. However, I would very much like as many of you as possible to migrate over to Rumble, because the more of you that are following me on Rumble, let me put it this way. The moment the majority of my followers are on Rumble, as opposed to YouTube, the moment those numbers flip, I'm dumping YouTube. Absolutely and completely. I have no interest in being on this platform because of the way their terms of service are so whimsically applied and changed. In any case, I hope you're all doing well. Take it easy.